Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Brenda Dettinger from BioPAC, and I will be your moderator on today's webinar. We are talking about Lab on a Finger, the new research ring, which I am wearing today. All of our speakers are wearing it as well. We're very excited to share this technology with you. We just launched this product on October 3rd. I'm wearing, like I said, I'm wearing one now, and I think you're really gonna enjoy learning about it today. You can see the data that we're collecting on my screen. So I'm actively collecting data while I'm wearing the ring during this webinar, and I'm sure my ADA is going crazy right now. So before we get started though, I need to run over some housekeeping notes with you. Please submit your comments and questions through the GoToWebinar control panel. That's how you communicate with me, your moderator. I'll pass as many questions as I can on to the presenters. When the webcam's turned on, if it looks the wrong size or if you can't see it, you can just grab this little gray bar and resize it to make it look right on your screen. We are recording today's webinar. We'll send each of you a link once it's processed, and finally we'll have a survey at the end of the webinar. Please complete it so we have your feedback and ideas. Now on to our presenters. We have an excellent panel of speakers today. We have Dr. Hugh Lusted. He's a founding partner at SenStream. He earned his PhD in neuroscience at Stanford University School of Medicine in 1980. He has since focused on developing high-quality portable biosignal acquisition systems. Welcome, Hugh. We also have Alex Pachkowski. He is a software developer working with SenStream to build mobile, cloud, and web applications. Alex has developed software for a number of industries. He is currently working on digital signal processing and analysis. Welcome, Alex.
Hi, hello.
And of course, we have Fraser Finlay. He's the CEO of BioPAC with over 25 years of experience in life sciences and physiology monitoring industry. Fraser oversees the development of physiological data collection and analysis products and is a well-regarded expert who presents at workshops all over the world. Welcome, Fraser.
Morning, everyone. Good afternoon, wherever you are.
All right, I'm making you presenter.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. Let me get organized here. All right, perfect. Well, thank you, Brenda, for the introduction, and welcome everyone to this webinar on the new research ring. So before we start, I have a little background information about BioPAC. BioPAC develops high-quality scientific tools that allow you to measure physiology anytime, anywhere, with any subject. We've been in business for over 30 years, and 99% of the top 100 universities use BioPAC products, and many corporations use our products for research and development and product validation. And all those users have helped to generate over 50,000 citations as of August 2023. So as previously stated, BioPAC provides scientific tools that allow researchers to measure physiology anywhere from any subject, anytime. And that's why we're delighted with our partnership with SenStream. The SenStream ring with integration to AcqKnowledge allows researchers to collect quality research data in the lab, at home, school, the workplace, while subjects are in bed, running webinars, almost anywhere your participants are likely to be, or as we like to say, in the wild. The form factor of this new device is incredibly appealing, and from a research perspective, anytime you can collect multiple channels of quality data from a single wearable device that is both easy to apply and easy to use, you're onto a winning formula. The name of this device, the Research Ring, stands out because there are lots of very nice wearable consumer devices on the market that provide all kinds of metrics about human performance and behavior. But the Research Ring separates itself from the crowd by providing full, high-fidelity, raw data across all the signals, You get all of the data with complete transparency regarding band limits and sample rates. These are important issues for BioPAC because we know our research customers pay careful attention to data transparency and want to avoid black box devices wherever possible. The signals from the research ring have been validated against our Bionomatics wireless system and compare extremely favorably. Excuse me, which means you're going to get great data from a very small and convenient package. That doesn't mean we found some magic formula for eliminating all forms of artifact, because that's not the case. However, as you'll see from today's presentation and the data we'll share with you, the research ring is a very powerful tool for collecting physiology data from participants in ecologically valid settings and across large populations for short duration, cross-sectional, and longitudinal studies. Study populations can range from adolescents to adult. The battery life is very impressive for the size of the device and certainly capable of handling a day of work or a full night's sleep or binge watching the latest streaming series or epic movie production. We'll provide all the details in the upcoming segments, but for now, I'm going to hand back over to Brenda for our first poll of the day.
Great, I go ahead and launch that poll. Go ahead and tell us how you would use the research ring. And meanwhile, I just remind everybody, because there's a bunch of people that joined after I did my intro, you can go ahead and pass questions to me, and I'll ask them if appropriate or if we have time during the polls, and then we'll have a Q&A session at the end. We do have our first question from Melanie. I'm going to ask this now, even though I know that you're going to cover it a little bit later. But can the rings be used with adolescents, and how about children?
Yeah, I mean, definitely adolescents. One of the things that we'll be covering in the next segment, the ring adjusts to different finger sizes through the use of shims. And I'll leave it at that because both you and I will touch on this in a moment. Okay,
great. All right, well, thanks everyone for completing the poll. I'll go ahead and close that and share the results real quick. Looks like about a quarter of the people are single user. Gosh, a lot. Okay, so single user in situ, and then in the lab with multiple users, it's gosh, 2/3 of people with multiple users. So that's interesting. And then 42% remote, and then a bunch of people just learning as usual. So thank you all for joining us and participating. And now we are going to switch gears to Hugh and Alex, and Hugh will give an introduction of the ring.
And are we unmuted? Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
I hear
Hello,
you.
everyone. So, Brenda, just to make sure, are we showing the SendStream screen, and how is the audio?
Everything sounds great and looks great.
Great. Okay. So let's just jump right in. Hello. Actually, good morning, good evening, everyone, wherever you are. Glad you're here. And we're going to run through the hardware and software elements of the ring in specific, so you know exactly what we're dealing with here. And as Fraser mentioned, there are various aspects to the system. So we're going to go through the single user elements, talk about the mobile, this being a mobile native, talking to the app, cloud connected. Once you finish your session, the data is uploaded to the cloud. And also later on, Fraser is going to walk us through real-time work with the ring and AcqKnowledge. So just a quick overview here. We have the lab on a ring, lab on a finger, all of these biometrics that we're able to pick up: EDA, PPG, electrocardiogram, thermistor, and the motion unit, which right now is just being used to put the ring to sleep and wake it up. And we have future uses for that IMU unit to deal with motion artifact. and then we'll talk specifically about each of those channels and what the data looks like. So as Fraser mentioned, we have the possibility of individuals using the ring with their phone in just about any situation. Groups of people in the lab, which could be multiple rings connected to iOS device or to AcqKnowledge on a Windows platform. We have also, we're talking with various possible clients about many people in the same room. And also we're talking about, since the ring and app are connected to the cell network, literally you could be anywhere in the world collecting data and uploading it to the cloud. So let's just talk about some of the actual use cases we're dealing with, not only with current customers, but clients that we're in discussion with. So we do have a classroom situation that is in development where the researchers are looking at engagement and stress. We're talking with a couple of companies to do movie and content, TV evaluation, advertisement in content in terms of audience engagement. We're looking at meditation and mindfulness, and this is an interesting area where working with your own ring and app, you can track your ability to dial down in real time. If I can use that term, dial down, that is lower the indicators of sympathetic nervous system activation in real time, and then as well track yourself over time to see if you can work on improving your dial down capability. Workplace stress and management. Actually, this of course is another area where individuals can use the ring in their phone just to have feedback on their own stress levels. Fraser has some good recordings he did in a meeting recently, a business meeting recently, where he was recording the data on AcqKnowledge. So he's going to show you his activations over the course of the meeting. Post-traumatic stress analysis and follow-up. This is an area where, in some cases, PTSD has people overreacting in certain situations, say for loud noises, and also over time, PTSD can result in depression. So the ring has the capabilities, the bioindicators to help track PTSD. Food and emotion is another area related possibly to eating disorders and also activations related to certain food or the opposite. And then a bullet that I didn't include here that I think is a really interesting research area is wearing the ring while you're driving. And it's very possible to even though your hand's on the wheel, you can get very high quality data with minimal artifact. And one of the things I've noticed in recording myself driving is that I'm almost constantly stressed, no matter what the driving situation is, even on a country road where there's no traffic. Very interesting area for research follow-up. So let's actually look at the what's under the hood. This is a cutaway of the whole ring, showing the sensor deck, the flex circuit board inside in relation to the battery, with the BLE processor on top, obviously, so the battery doesn't interfere with the transmission of signals. So let's go through each of the sensor modes. The EDA electrodes are on the flat deck on either side of the PPG sensor. They're dry electrodes, and even though they're dry electrodes, they still give very high quality signals without electrolyte. Maximum sampling rate is 400 Hertz on this channel. Gold plated, and the data actually compares very favorably with bionomatics. So let's look at some of those waveforms. In particular, the skin conductance responses match almost 1-to-1 with the biopneumatics, which we're really happy about the data quality. And so is BioPAC. So we're not only working with them, we're also working to verify the data using the traditional lab equipment. One thing to notice here that's important is the rise time and the amplitude, the peak amplitude, as well as the roll off match very well in these example skin conductance responses. So these are important elements of the electrodermal response or skin conductance response, just to give you a sense about the data. Also, Fraser, a bit later, when he looks at the AcqKnowledge data, the electrodermal level, that is the DC level, also corresponds very well to biopneumatics. PPG sensor uses a green LED and photodiodes. It has a maximum sampling rate of 400 available. And again, the wave quality is good. It compares very favorably with biopneumatics. So let's take a look at that as an example. On top is the raw PPG data, and then the peak picker, which works in real time in the app, filters and picks the peaks so that we can derive heart rate and heart rate variability in real time in the app. And we'll demonstrate that as well when we fire up for the real-time demo. The ECG sensor is, this is a differential single channel ECG that uses 3 electrodes, 2 on the inside of the ring and 1 on the outside, that in order to get your ECG, you need to contact the opposite side of the body somewhat. You can put your finger on the electrode, or you can, if you're meditating, you can put one hand on the other, or in some other situations, you could even put it here against your clavicle. And it's very sensitive to motion artifact, but if you have a steady hand, you can actually get quite good data. The maximum sampling rate on this channel is 800 Hertz. And here's an example of the raw data from a situation where I was holding like this. Maybe to steady it, I put it on my knee or one hand on the other. And Fraser will show you this through AcqKnowledge as well. Power, we have a big battery, as you can see, in the ring, 60 milliamp hour, and we can continuously stream data at high sampling rates for 8 to 10 hours. We have a sleep mode that kicks in after 30 seconds. It says 15:30, which is more convenient. And then to wake up the ring, it's actually awake now. It's flashing blue. Actually, let me show you that. There we go. That's the mode that it's in when it's advertising. And then once you connect to the app, then solid green line comes on light to indicate that it's actually streaming data. So just to talk a little bit to battery questions have already come up. With moderate use, with lower sampling rates, and say 1 or 2 sessions a day, you can go several days between charges. Shims, Fraser mentioned this, especially in relation to the question about children and adolescents. These are sized to American ring size 6 through 13. Over on the right would be for the small fingers. And the charger is kind of an interesting system. We're using the EDA electrodes to actually charge the ring, and it's a magnetic connection. The electrodes are actually made out of steel. They're gold-plated steel, so they're magnetic. And so this is the way that the cradle works. And as you can imagine, if you're an experienced electrophysiologist, you would never want to apply 5 volts across your EDA electrodes. So we have a special switching circuit in firmware that makes sure you can never charge at the same time you're trying to use the EDA channel, just to let you know that safety issues engaged. So I think now we're ready for the second poll, Brenda.
Yes, and I have a ton of questions. I think we should address a few of them now. Let me go ahead and launch this poll. All right, so Ali, he answered the question about battery life already, so let me know if you have a follow-up question, okay? And then let's see, Julian, a bunch of people asked about how does the ring handle movement? Does it create artifacts on raw signals? So let's just take that one first. I don't hear you.
Okay,
Oh, are you there?
Yeah, I'm not seeing my screen, but
well, just because I have the
can you
poll
hear
up,
me?
so just we can hear you, but I have the
Okay.
poll up, so just don't worry about while they're
Oh,
answering.
that's right. Yeah, sorry, you've got that screen up. Yeah, so motion artifact is a factor. It's a factor on all channels. The most forgiving is the EDA channel. The ECG channel is probably the most sensitive because it's dealing with the highest sampling rate, highest frequencies. So it's good to be aware that that's a factor in your protocol or in your whatever session setup you're doing. But it is possible to minimize hand movement for a lot of recording situations. Like I mentioned, driving. Driving is a situation where you'd think there'd be a lot of motion artifact, but it's actually pretty stable on the steering wheel.
Okay, I'm going to close the poll. Okay, so it's equal for EDA and PPG. About a third of the people are temp, and a lot of people for ECG as well, and then 12% other. So I'll just show this real quick before I switch back to you, Alex, because people did ask about the size of the ring, and I know Fraser's going to cover this later, but it comes in this box with these shims, and those create different ring sizes. And so I have size number 8 on my finger, and depending on the ring size, it doesn't feel heavy to me at all. I'm addressing someone's questions right now. I'm sorry, there's a lot of questions, so I'm not able to find you on here. And it's very comfortable, actually. Okay, so now back to you, Alex. We'll get to more questions later, everyone.
All right, thank you, Brenda. So what we're going to do now is I've got a pre-recorded video showing the iPad version of the app. We're going to demonstrate connecting to a ring, recording sensor mode data. We're going to run a time session and upload it to the web and see what the data looks like. So right here, I'm going to hit play and I'll walk you through what's happening. So right now we're selecting the app connects over Bluetooth, looking for the ring. We can connect to multiple rings. Right now I'm selecting just one ring. So it's connected right now. Querying, we'll see basic information like the battery level and the firmware version. If I tap on the ring, you'll be able to see more detail here, like the charging state, the sensor mode. This is where you upgrade the firmware as well. If we'll tap back, and then at any time you can swipe right on that, and you'll be able to blink the ring. So if you have multiple rings, that's super helpful. Right now I'm signed into SynStream Cloud. I'm going to tap Upload Session. That's default off or on. There are 5 sensor modes, so I'm going to select ECG, ECG 400 Hertz, PPG 400 Hertz, EDA 20 Hertz, and temperature 20 Hertz for this session. Optionally, you can add in a session title and notes that will be uploaded along with your session for your reference later. By default, sessions can run indefinitely. For this demo, I'm going to select 2 minutes. When everything's ready to go, I'll hit start at the bottom of the screen. And as I get going on the 4 sensors, the 4 charts that you're seeing right now are ECG, PPG, EDA, and temperature. And the top one, ECG, so I have the connection with the bottom of the ring. So it's taking a little bit of time for me to get a good signal, but coming up pretty soon, I should start to see. So this is raw ECG signal coming directly from the ring. We're getting live peak picking on that red ECG signal. Below that, the PPG signal is the green PPG light underneath the ring taking your pulse. Below that, the blue EDA raw sensor is measured in microsiemens. You'll see that on the far left, the chart, and below that is the ring, your body temperature measured at your finger in degrees Celsius. So on the top, you're able to see pretty clearly that the sensor data looks good to me, to my eye. You're able to see a comparison between the red electrical impulse peak from your heart going to the green physical arrival of the blood at your finger. So you're able to see in real time pulse travel time. On the EDA channel, we're marking EDA activations in real time as well using our algorithm. The nice thing about this is we're saving all the data at 400 hertz, 400 hertz, 20 hertz, 20 hertz in this sensor mode to a file that can live locally and you can take with and run your own peak picking, heart rate determination, HRV, EDA activations, roll off, anything that you want to measure yourself. The data is yours to take with. So now the session's ended because the 2 minutes just expired. So because I selected upload session, the session is uploading to SynStream Cloud. When I tap on sessions on the left, we will see that that session made it up to the cloud. So now I'm going to go over to the next screen, to the web page. So this is what it looks like on charts.synstream.com when you log into your account. So normally you might have many, many sessions here. So this session right here is what I just uploaded. So if I tap on this, we'll go in and view the data. So you'll see over here the little bit of motion artifact as having difficulty getting a good signal. Once I got that good signal, right here, ECG, PPG, EDA, and temperature, just like you saw in the app. Tap on here to see your session notes, a little bit more information about the session. At any time you can tap download to get a zip file containing all the raw data for you. Here's other charts you can turn on and off, for instance, using our calculation for heart rate and HRV for ECG and PPG, see any of this other data. Let's zoom into a spec.
Let's go way over here. See what one thing you can see in the ECG channel is it's completely unfiltered. There's a lot of what's called trending, like the cardiologists like to say, they detrend the data. That is, they eliminate the low frequency element to flatten out the data. So if we zoom in on a particular area, we can actually see the PQRST wave complex. And Fraser's going to show you that as well in AcqKnowledge. So in the PPG data looks nice. There's a little dichrotic notch there between the 2 lobes, and the EDA data look good too. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you. That is the app in action. All right, back to you, Brenda. Thank you.
Okay, we have so many questions. Let me go ahead and launch this next poll, and I will try to get to as many as I can. So some of them I'm going to save for Fraser. Okay, so let's see here. All right, so Mark had a follow-up question related to the group setting. Did I understand correctly that you can hook up multiple rings with one recording device to get synchronized reactivity?
Yes, we have.
The numbers are on iOS. We can do up to 10. Is that right?
Roughly about 10. Yeah, there's we've been experimenting different Bluetooth chipsets and different hardware. You might find certain devices are able to handle more, but for just a standalone iOS device, about 10 is what we've seen at high frequencies.
And then Fraser will talk more about this, but on in Windows, AcqKnowledge is reliably 9, possibly 10, but we're saying 9 for now per central. That is 9 rings per laptop, let's say, running AcqKnowledge. And then we're also dealing with other ways of monitoring multiple, like groups of 10, 20, 30 rings, but that's in process right now with a separate hardware.
Yeah, we're definitely testing the ability to record many more in a larger group setting.
Okay, I'm going to try to cover a few of these questions. Thank you for answering that. I'm closing the poll. So Raymond asked about how you charge the battery. Do you guys want to show that? Here's the battery charger. I know you showed that on the screen, but this just plugs into the device. Can you hang it on the ring? I don't want to pull mine off. You just plug it. I plugged it in last night, so mine was charged. There you go.
And also we have the light, the color of the light indicates the level of charge. So green, when it's completely green, it's fully charged, and it starts out at orange if it's depleted.
Mine charged up real quick last night. I think it took less than an hour, honestly. Yes. Okay, so all right, so then more questions about size. Is there a favorite finger? Does it fit children? I know Fraser's going to cover this as well later, but it goes pretty small.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, so it goes to a 6. I think some of our researchers have tried smaller children's fingers using a little, like a piece of foam rubber to take even more space. So yes, it can work. It can be used on any finger, even your thumb. It's interesting to get data from your thumb. It's normally you wouldn't think to do that, but I've tried it on all fingers, and I prefer my left index finger, either right or left hand too.
Yeah.
I've tried it. I have a 4-year-old son, and I've tried it with a size 6 ring insert. They pop in and out just like this, so they come with sets of shims. But putting a size 6 in there, putting it on his thumb, I get great EDA and PPG data. It's a little hard for him to touch the electrode for an ECG signal, but pretty good.
Oh, yeah, the shims come with it and pop in and out easily. Yeah. Okay, so we can talk to you more about the sizing later. I wanted to ask this question. Heart rate variability. Did you cover that already? I'm sorry, I was reading all these questions, and Melanie is asking about that.
Yes, heart rate variability we calculate in the app in real time. With us, you can enter the N over, that is how many heartbeats do you want to make that calculation. I think what we have running now is an RMSD calculation for that.
On PG and PPG.
Yeah, and on AcqKnowledge, of course, I don't think it runs in real time, but in post, you can do much more, many more types of HRV analyses using AcqKnowledge.
Okay, I'll take one more question and then we'll move on, and we'll take more questions later. So this is interesting. How does it work when a subject goes to sleep? How do you keep the session going, or how do you start a session? Can you do that remotely? How does that work? That's Sarania.
Go to sleep.
I assume ECG wouldn't work too well unless, but yeah, there's nothing to say. As long as you have a Bluetooth connection, you're streaming data, high quality throughput, you should be picking up data. I can't speak to what the signals look like, but there's nothing that requires the user to be awake, conscious.
Well, you can wear it during sleep, and it will actively send data, collect data during sleep. Can you remotely connect? And so it's just, you start the session before you go to sleep, or do you auto connect? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, you can, so it's less of a consumer device at the moment, but it's if you initiated a connection, start a session, you could go to sleep, definitely.
Yeah.
Or
one of our sales reps actually, yeah, he wore it during sleep, and he said the data was really interesting the next day. So, all right, well, thank you all, and lots of people. It's about split third and third for, you know, collecting data remotely. I have a lot of questions. I might just try to answer some on my own because we're not going to have time, but we will address all the questions in a Q&A document at the end of the webinar, and we'll send that out in the next, couple weeks if I don't get to your question today, but we'll take some more during the poll and at the end. All right, Fraser. Now a lot of you had questions about AcqKnowledge and BioPAC systems, so hopefully he'll address those. Let me know if he doesn't, okay? I'm gonna make you presenter, and here we go.
Wow, a lot of questions. As Brenda just said, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the integration with AcqKnowledge. I got a couple more slides, and then the majority of the time will be spent actually in the software, showing the ring in action. We've covered most of these points, but a question that came up a moment ago about communication is Bluetooth. If you've got a Windows computer or laptop, dependent upon the Bluetooth adapter you have. The Intel ones seem to work really well. We've got some specifications regarding that. We know we can do 9 very comfortably. 10, it starts to get a little bit borderline. So that would be 9 participants, each wearing a ring in a room. You can think about a bunch of people in a meeting or watching content streaming back to a laptop computer. The advantage of doing that with AcqKnowledge is obviously you get the real-time display, just the same as you would with any of our devices. You gain all the signal conditioning and the analysis tools, such as heart rate variability. You also have workflow. So when you buy the license for AcqKnowledge, it comes with scripting and workflow. That allows you to automate a lot of the signal conditioning, helps with cleanup, and then any of your analysis, and I'll be getting into that in a moment. We also have access to network data transfer. So if you've got a large study population where you're collecting data from lots of groups of people on different computers, network data transfer allows you to stream all of that data to one location. So if you've got your own application that you've developed for managing that data, network data transfer is a great way to manage that. And then lastly, Alex gave a great demonstration of the SenStream cloud software. That data can then be downloaded. It's a comma-separated variable file, CSV, and then there's a script in AcqKnowledge that will allow you to import that data. Brenda showed this earlier on screen. This is basically the box with everything in it. You can see the ring in the center, you see the shims for resizing. The charger cord is on the side here, but that goes beneath this little panel here. There's also a couple of alcohol wipes for, cleaning the ring, which is important between subjects. And then there's an adhesive label that has the identifier for the ring, and then that can be placed on the front of the ring. So even though the ring is not connected to the software, you can immediately identify the ring. If you've got AcqKnowledge, you'll get the scripting for the import that I just mentioned. It comes with a license for workflow. So this option here will be primarily for those of you that are interested in in-lab use cases, or you want to download the data from the SenStream cloud to perform the analysis in AcqKnowledge. If you just want to use the ring independent of AcqKnowledge through the iPhone app, you can do that. The last thing I want to touch on here, there's a little QR code. If you scan that in with your phone, it will take you to the correct location on the App Store, and you can download the SenStream app, the Research Ring app, for collecting data on the phone. All right, so let's take a look at what we've been talking about. We've kind of heard enough of the theory. So I started collecting data actually at the beginning of today's webinar, actually before we started, and I've put some event marks in. This is the point where Brenda was kind of reasonably relaxed up until then, and then Brenda started the webinar live, launched and went through her housekeeping, and you see there's kind of an increase there, and you can see there's skin conductance responses all the way through. Unfortunately, I forgot to increase the recording time, so at 30 minutes it stopped, and then I just restarted it again. So this last period here, this was the handover from the poll, and this is me talking at this point here. So this is the display and acknowledge. This is actually still collecting data. If we zoom in a little bit, we get a better view. You can see my pulse on the top. You see the electrodermal. Maybe if I take a deep breath, we'll get a response. A little bit of a response if I auto scale that. Yeah, there we go. So you can see how responsive it is, and temperature is down the bottom, down here. So again, works just like one of our regular devices. If I auto scale all of these, so now we're looking at the duration. I'm going to stop collecting this data. If you're using AcqKnowledge with an MP device, normally you'll have your MP device hardware up here, MP 150, MP 160, MP 36, etc. But in this case, it's the SendStream ring. When you come into setup data acquisition, you get a slightly different user interface for the channels. Normally we sort of list out all the channels. In the case of the MP160, you have the 16 and you can add the signals in. Because the signals are already predefined with the ring, we've got the modes available down here. And you'll see the sample rate for each of the different modes. The data I was collecting is PPG at 200 Hertz, the electrodermal activity and temperature at 5 Hertz. And then you can turn on and off these channels. There's an additional channel here called count. That just counts up the samples that are coming into the system. In theory, that number should just keep increasing across the screen. Obviously, if it stalls out and plateaus, that means you're losing data. And you usually get an indication of that anyway, because the ring will tell you that, you know, it's no longer communicating. We've got the battery level here. So this ring that I'm using is about approximately 50% charged. There's a nice little option here for identifying the ring, and I'll try and hold that up. Hold that. If I do that again, you can see it lights up. So it's easy to identify the rings. You've also got the label on there as well with the respective ring number. Aside from that, you've basically got all the usual controls that you have in AcqKnowledge. Sorry, not what I wanted to do. If we come back over to this setup channels, I forgot to mention you've got all your calculation channels on there. So if you want to do any filtering or calculations, all of that can be done just the same way that you would with one of our MP devices. The event marks, I'm just using the function keys. I was using F1 to drop different markers in. Some of them I dropped some notes down, so I was moving my camera around. So there's a little bit, if I zoom in here, there's a little bit of artifact in and around here. So again, the same tools that you have. One of the other nice things that we have, hopefully this will work. I'm going to stop my video within GoToWebinar, and hopefully over here, if I start a new recording. So this is just the same ring. I'm going to close that out. I've got my window over here. Under media, go to setup, and I can turn the video on, select OK, and hopefully if it released it, and it did, nice. So now we can start collecting data. When I hit start, We'll see the ring come into life over here. In a moment, we'll see the pulse kick in. There we go. So we've got the pulse, EDA, and temperature, and now I'm videoing my participant as they're performing any task that we want. So no different to an MP160 system at this point. And then when we stop data collection, come back over to the playback viewer. Let's see if I can get organized here a little bit better. All right, so wherever I place my cursor now, it will advance. That's a good shot. Well, 2 for 2. So if I hit play in the playback, this will advance the video and I can play back what I was doing at that given moment in time. Okay, so you get the media functionality as well. You can have multiple participants, but I figured I would show some examples of different recordings. I'll try and get the ECG going here. Actually, before I do that, gonna open a file. There we go. All right, so this is channel 1 is going to be the raw ECG. Channel 2, I've added a filter, and if I hit start and I relax and make contact with the ring, and there we have the ECG. And we can filter that some more. That is the 800 Hertz mode for the ECG. So pretty high fidelity. You can filter it. You can then use that for heart rate variability. Let's close that out. One of the other things I wanted to show, this is a good example of a recording that was taken during a meeting. So actually I could have used the file we just collected, but this one works just as well. Again, blue channel is the pulse. The green channel, number 3, is my electrodermal activity, and then temperature down below. All of the analysis capabilities within AcqKnowledge work just the same. I've got a workflow in here, which hopefully I can get to. Perfect. So I created a workflow just to save a little bit of time. So this will perform the analysis on the top graph. It will ask me to select the channel that I want to analyze. Then it's going to select all the data. It will resample the waveform for me. It will perform an FIR filter at 1 Hertz. It will locate the skin conductance responses, and then it will count the number of skin conductance responses within a 60-second epoch, and then spit the results out to Excel. So I'm just going to hit go. Here's the channel that I want to analyze. Okay, so it's located the skin conductance responses, and now it's spitting the results out. So this is the epoch number, the time, and then these are the skin conductance responses within that time window. So again, this I manually set this up in the sense that I wanted to select the channel number, but you can do that once you know that channel 3 is EDA. The system will just come in, perform the analysis on channel 3 for you without any prompting, and then you can batch process that. So if you've got 10 of these files from 10 different participants, it will run through each one simultaneously. So, AcqKnowledge brings quite a lot to the table. In this case, you've got the in-lab uses, plus you've got the ability to perform the analysis and the automation around that as well, which is, super nice. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the EDA analysis, it's going to zoom in on a period here, and let's zoom in. So the water drop, this green channel, I should explain, is the tonic waveform. So this is skin conductance level. Down below, the software created the phasic waveform, okay? The opening parentheses that you can see just here, that indicates the point where the phasic signal crossed the threshold that I had selected. The water drop denotes the peak of the skin conductance response, and then this is the point, the closing parentheses, where the signal crossed back through that threshold. Okay, and you get that information across each of these for different types of analysis as well. Okay, so let's have a look at a couple of other things. Oh, this is a really good example. This is Alex, who many of you may know from some of the webinars, Alex Dimov. He sent me this file because he was super excited with the quality of the ECG. He did this recording with the electrode placed on the chest. So he just had his hand resting across his torso on the other side of his body, left hand probably to right side of the chest, I'm guessing, I don't know. But this is the raw data coming from the ring. Really nice. Down below, this is filtered, but man, the raw is really clean, which is good. One other thing to mention, Hugh has already described the electrodes. They are dry electrodes. You don't need to apply any gel or anything. But what we found, if you just add a little bit of gel, and we've been using the gel 101, which is the gel that we would typically use for electrodermal activity. It's isotonic. And we just rub a little bit around the finger that you're going to place the ring on. Rub it in, don't leave it on there. So it's almost like a moisturizer, for want of a better term. And then when you slide the ring over your finger, because the skin has had that gel penetrate into it a little bit, you really get good clean signals right off the bat. So there's some little tips there. What else? All right, so the other thing I wanted to show is importing the data from the SenStream cloud. So under script, I've got this option here, import ring data. And I'm going to select, actually, I think I've got a folder in here. Here it is. So I'm going to select this folder, Alex's data. Alex sent me this yesterday. And I've got 2 files here, and I'm just going to import them all. It'll take a second or two. I'm still here, don't worry. It's doing its thing on the other monitor. And almost there. I'm missing a dialog somewhere. There it is. Too many items open. All right, perfect. So this is one of the files. This just came straight down from the cloud. You can see the ECG. This was actually recorded yesterday when we were doing a dry rehearsal. That's right, we do actually rehearse. And then here's another example here. So it's very easy to bring that data down. Bring it down from the SunStream cloud. You get the CSV files in AcqKnowledge. All you have to do is locate that folder, select the files that you want to import, and it will bring those in. So the last thing I wanted to show, close these out. Actually, I think I'm going to save this. All right, we'll close this out and find AcqKnowledge. Get rid of you and you. All right, bear with me. Sorry about this. Here we go. All right, this is where I was trying to get to. So down below, if I put the second ring on, I should wake it up and put it on. I've got two rings connected, so I'm just going to select all devices, hit OK. Now AcqKnowledge has opened up two windows. So obviously if you had 9, you need a large monitor or a couple of monitors. This is just the 2. I can use what we refer to as linked acquisitions, and I can pick the files that I want to start. I hit start. Oh, sorry. Let's go back in here. Reconnect this ring. And identify it. Okay, that's the ring on my right finger. Close that out. And make sure this is set up. Close. All right. Let's try this again. All right, so now both rings have started simultaneously. And in a second, we should start to see the data come in. There we go. So this would be data from 2 participants recording simultaneously on screen. And that linked acquisition, if you look carefully where it says stop up here, you can see it has the L that indicates that it's a linked acquisition. If I auto scale these and I auto scale these, and when I stop, they will both stop. So it's actually quite convenient to have multiple participants in the room together. Obviously, you need real estate to see all of these. I mean, the windows do shrink down. We've added some features in the software now that will maximize the real estate. You can turn channels off, obviously, but a couple of monitors will definitely go a long way with multiple participants. I'm just looking at my checklist. I think I've gone through just about everything. I know there's a lot of questions, so at this point I'm going to hand back over to Brenda for a poll, and hopefully some time for some questions. Brenda, back over to you.
Okay, I have not taken a breath for this whole time that you've been presenting, Fraser, because I've been frantically answering questions. So I'm trying to get to as many as I can. I don't have all the answers. And I'm going to try to ask you some questions now.
Okay.
While this poll is running, let's see here. Okay, so first of all, I want to let everybody know that a lot of people have asked about pricing. We'll have your rep reach out, your local representative, wherever you are in the country. There's someone for you to talk to, wherever you are in the world, I should say. And you can reach out to them very easily, and they'll get your information, and they can give you some pricing. It is water resistant. It's not, you can't immerse it in water, but it's water resistant. And let's see if I can find an AcqKnowledge question for you. You talked about event marks. So can the event marks also be done using the device itself, or can it only be done in AcqKnowledge? Is one question that came in.
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, okay. So obviously within AcqKnowledge, we already demonstrated that you've got the ability to mark whenever you want. With the ring, there's a really nice technique that Hugh has developed where if you just tap the ring 3 times, it really leaves a very obvious mark within the data. So it's not an independent event mark the same way you get with AcqKnowledge, but it's an efficient way of marking the file. And ultimately going forward, we hope to have event marks in there, but for the moment, this strategy works quite efficiently.
Great. Okay, so can the data from the ring and the SendStream app be synchronized with other data in AcqKnowledge? What other data can be collected? How does that work?
Yes, you can synchronize with other data and other devices. I kind of showed you the linked acquisition. AcqKnowledge is very clever in that it can talk to different devices at the same time. So if you happen to have an MP160, you could run an MP160 and AcqKnowledge simultaneously. Sorry, you can run an MP160 and a research ring, and then using the linked acquisition, both devices will start simultaneously. You can automatically merge the data at the end. That is one of the choices that you have in the dialog for linked acquisition. And then all the data will just end up in one file, or you can keep them independent. So you would have 2 files, one for the MP160 and one for the research ring.
Okay, so Alice, I think it was you. So I'm collecting data in the app right now off my ring. This data can just be collected in the app without any upload to AcqKnowledge. But what else happens here, Alex and Hugh, besides just the app? So the app is one option. You can just have that on your own, or you can upload. It automatically uploads to the cloud and then to AcqKnowledge through this linking.
If you sign in, you can have the option to upload it to the cloud. If you just keep it locally, you can definitely just have the files reside on your iPhone, and you can export them through AirDrop, email them, message, something like that to get them off the phone, and import them into AcqKnowledge directly.
Okay, so let me just show my screen real quick, because sorry, I didn't have this. I've had so many questions, I haven't been able to like even get my deck up. So because I know people are leaving, it's way past top of the hour here. So I just want to let you know you can request a demo and immediately speak to your salesperson by going to this link, or just scan that QR code. Lots of you have been asking about more information and details, and now I guess we will officially go to the Q&A. Keep your, I may have to go back to one of your screens, and that's fine. So let me go to some of these other questions here, see what I can get. Okay, there's a few questions about internal data to the app itself, or sorry, to the ring itself. So I'm sorry, there's so many questions, I'm having a trouble finding that specific language, but is there any internal storage? And is that needed even? Maybe you don't even need it because it goes straight into the phone.
That's a great question. So right now we require a Bluetooth connection between the peripheral, the Bluetooth ring I'm wearing too, and the central, the either AcqKnowledge or the iOS device. So as long as there's a connection, data is stored just on the central, the computer or the iOS device. So we don't use local storage, so it doesn't currently operate disconnected.
Okay. Okay, so moving on, we're just gonna get to as many as we can here in the next 10 minutes or so. Does the mobile app allow you to record from multiple rings, or is it just one ring at a time?
I could share my screen if you'd like.
Okay, one moment, let
answer
me
is
come back
yes.
over to you, make presenter. Okay, here you go.
All right. So I had a feeling someone might want to ask about this. So this is the live app running. I've got 2 rings on my fingers right now, so it's a little bit of motion artifact, but yeah, this is definitely, you can do multiple rings. I just have 2 right now, but this device can handle up to 10 on here. And it's doing all the live filtering as you run your session. So yes.
So Alex, how many graphs could we actually display PPG on all 10 rings?
Yes.
Okay.
There'll be a lot of data, but
yeah,
it'll keep up.
yeah. So
And here's just an idea of all the different signals you can display live: ECG, PPG, EA, temperature, and then there's some basic diagnostics like the ring battery level if you wanted to monitor that, and RSSI is signal strength. And so if you walk further away from the central, the iOS device, it'll decrease the signal strength, and then turning either the labels on the left side or peaks on and off if you want to see those.
we could also display graphs of the derived metrics, HRV and heart rate, as well as we're not graphing it right now, but we could graph the SCR, the skin conductance peaks, as well as the amplitude. We can calculate the amplitude of the skin conductance responses the same way Fraser showed in AcqKnowledge, because it picks the beginning of the SCR based on a threshold and then finds the peak and then can display that amplitude.
And of course, during a live demo, I've got some motion artifacts. So you can see the event marking tapping. It's pretty sharp.
Right. When we're hand waving doing a demo, it's actually a good way to see what your motion artifact situation is.
But you'll definitely see my EDA is quite high. So, yep.
More, Brenda?
Okay, sorry, yes, I'm reading. Okay, let me go back. So there is an API, just so everybody knows. We got a few questions about APIs. I was trying to write down questions too so that I could answer those. Okay, so there was an interesting question about, okay, here we go. Yep.
What was the question about the API?
Just, is there an API? And there is one, according to Joe's, or something you want to show, or you still have access to your screen?
So if you're able to see on charts, every account has a way to have your app or cloud speak to SynStream backend. So it's kind of a common just a REST API. There's some documentation available here that developers or someone with a little bit of coding experience should be able to see. You can generate new API keys, give it a name, key, and then this key you take and you can start to look at Git sessions and download the same data to your whatever your instance is. So, and then when you're done with it, just revoke the key, and no one in this webcast will be able to talk to my API account.
Okay, so the video function was interesting to some people. Fraser, how many videos can there be in a room?
We have the ability to run up to 8 cameras simultaneously. So if you've got many participants in the room, you can have 8 cameras placed around the room, one on each of your participants, essentially. What
Okay.
I'm showing you is just a basic webcam, but we have 4 and 8 camera systems that manage everything for you.
Okay, and back, so I think you showed this earlier, but let's just show it again. Can you create personalized session types, choosing which signals to record and their sampling frequency? I know you can, so I wanted you to just show that on the app again.
Sure, absolutely. Let me quit this session. So here are the 5 sensor modes. Again, we've got they're presets that are baked into the firmware. And there's some technical reasons inside the firmware where these kind of groupings of, for instance, the fastest ECG we support currently is 800 hertz. If you want ECG and PPG at the same time, we can get up to 400 on both channels. The sensor mode E, if you want PPG at 400 hertz and EDA at 400 hertz, we can support that as well, and tacking on temperature at 20 hertz. I have these first 2 sensor modes, the same sensor modes are in AcqKnowledge as well. The first 2 sensor modes are lower bandwidth, and the last 3 are higher bandwidth.
Okay, I'm
And then after
typing.
that, you can use it down
Go ahead.
certain signals.
Okay, so let's see. There was oh, here's an interesting one. If I have 50 participants, can the app push their data? So it looks like it wants to go to the SynStream cloud first, right? And then it can go to a server.
It doesn't have to go to the cloud. I mean, it's easier if it goes to the cloud. It's more streamlined for the participants, but the data can reside on the phone, and then the researcher would need the phone or the participant to push the data to wherever they want. Whereas if the participants are at home or somewhere, the data will be pushed to the cloud when the session ends, and then the researcher will have access to that data immediately without having to, worry about grabbing data from devices or asking participants to push data to locations.
Okay, just reading all these questions here. Okay, which version of AcqKnowledge, Fraser, does it work with?
It comes with its own version at the moment. It's not a shipping version for users. So when you order the rings, you request the AcqKnowledge and you'll get that version, but it's 579 is the number, but that's not a sort of a version that we're shipping currently.
Okay. Okay. All right. So if you have more questions about that, you can just talk to your local representative. What file format does the data get downloaded into?
From SynStream Cloud, or if you're just exporting directly from the iOS app, it's a folder, and it contains per ring a list of individual CSV files. They're time-stamped to microseconds. So it's microseconds and then the value. So each file has like ECG raw, our version of ECG filtered, our peaks for the ECG, our heart rate for ECG, HRV, so all the derived signals, but individually EDA raw, ECG raw, temperature raw, and PPG raw.
Right, so it's a CSV file with about 16 columns of the raw data and the derived signals.
Or 2 columns per, so that just the time
right,
and the
yes.
X and the Y, basically.
And when you're bringing it into AcqKnowledge, we just bring in the raw data, but if people want access to the other signals, we can provide that as well.
Okay, so some questions about the hardware. How long do the electrodes last, and how do they need to be cleaned, or do they need to be cleaned and sanitized? I guess probably they should be sanitized in between users, but tell us a little bit more about that hardware.
Sure, yeah. How long do the electrodes last? Well, they're gold-plated steel, And if you take care of them, I think they will last longer than the ring itself. The ring is waterproof, moisture proof. There's a seal around each electrode to prevent moisture from going down into the circuit board. So yes, if you can clean with IPA, with the isopropyl alcohol, and dry.
The wipes, yeah.
Yeah, with the included alcohol wipes. Q-tip is useful for if you especially want to clean carefully each electrode. So there are 5 electrodes there. There are 2 for EDA, 2 for on the inside for ECG, and then the 1 external. So I think that answers the question about care for the electrodes. And
Yeah,
also
I was trying to hold it up for you, Hugh, as well. It's
Good.
actually relatively easy to clean in there as well with the wipes. I mean, hopefully you're picking the electrodes up there. So they do clean up pretty easily using those wipes.
Yeah, and also the PPG module has a transparent window protecting it. So yes, it's good to be careful not using abrasive on the window because that would affect the transparency. So anyway, it's relatively easy to clean. It there are no gaps that you need to get into in order to maintain it.
Okay, so now a couple more. So just more questions about the battery. Maybe this was addressed earlier, but I just keep getting more. So what is the battery life at a full sampling rate versus like lower sampling rates? And what are the sampling rates again? Can you go over that again?
Sure. So battery life, let's distinguish between time between charges in battery life. We're expecting that battery can live with charge and I think it's 500 charge and discharge, complete discharges. So we're thinking the battery life is 2 years. And time between charges depends on sampling rate. So as we said, at the highest sampling rates, either the 800 ECG or the 400 400s, we're looking at 8 to 10 hours. And we're still actually with our users, we're gathering data about use cases, sample rates, battery discharge rates, because you can see what at the start of your session, your battery level on the app, and then you can see your battery level when you end a session. So we're still gathering data on that, but so far we're happy with the continuous streaming that's possible on with a charge. Like I said, 8 to 10 hours continuous.
But at the lower rates, it could be higher than that as well, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I mean, maybe
Yes,
50,
we just
17, something like that.
That's right. We just heard from one of our associates. It's more like perhaps 18 hours, 15 to 18 with the, let's say 200 ECG and then the lower sampling rates for PPG and EDA. Or the sensor mode B, which is, sensor mode. Oh, they both have 200, either ECG or PPG. So that's those lower sampling rates, you get better time between charges.
Okay, Todd, I think they answered your question about multiple participants. I just chatted to you. Let me know if you have more questions. We're nearing the end of our time here though, so we still have a lot of people on. I'm gonna go through just a couple more questions. Do users have access to all the raw data? I think we answered that, but go ahead and answer it. The file format we answered. Well, here's an interesting question about an accelerometer. Accelerometer, is that possible to add? I mean, it's not within the device itself, but you can always add it with a BioPAC system.
Hey, Brenda, can we just go back to the question about raw data? Because I think this is a really important question for researchers. And I mean, it's worth just, being 100% crystal clear.
Sure.
You get every sample of every signal all the time. We provide the band widths for the different signals. We provide the raw data. There is no black box here. It's 100% transparent, and that's something that BioPAC believes in very strongly. And the research ring delivers that 100%. So yeah, you get all the data all the time. There's no fuzzy logic or hidden filtering that's taking place. You can apply filters, you can extract values, but you absolutely get the raw data.
Okay, do you also want to address the accelerometer option?
Yes, there is an accelerometer in the ring. Right now, we're only using that module for a limited implementation of the ring, knowing when it's been sitting for 30 seconds, it goes to sleep, and then when you tap it, it wakes up. In the future, we'll implement ways to use that accelerometer, like I mentioned, especially for motion artifact rejection, if that's an option, if that's something users want.
Yeah, we're focused right now on shipping these sensor modes, and as an option, we're exploring to see what we can do with that accelerometer in the hardware.
Yeah, and it's not just an accelerometer either, right? It's actually, you know, an IMU. So there's definitely more to come in future iterations. But for now, it's used just to wake and send the device to sleep.
Okay, great. You just answered Alex's question about IMU as well. Thank you. Okay, so let's see. So I think we should just address one last time the motion artifacts and the ability, the different activities, and this will be our last question, the different activities that people can do while using the ring. So can you walk, meditate, work at a computer, watch it, you know, tell us more about how to handle activity and artifacts.
I think it just comes down to what the person is doing with their hand. If you're walking, then you're going to get pretty decent data off of there. If you're waving to someone across the street, you're going to get artifact. Even when I'm typing, I still get pretty good signals. I was moving things around during the webinar, and for the most part, the data is pretty good. It's sort of low impact stuff. It's really, if you're trying to do things and you're banging the ring, then you run into problems with artifact. But you know, that's going to be the nature for any device of this type, and you just have to pick the periods where you've got good clean signals for analysis. The tools within AcqKnowledge and within the SenStream cloud enable you to pick key points out in the waveforms so that you can analyze them. But I mean, we can't kid anyone that you're going to get 100% all the data all the time. When you're monitoring remote participants like this, you're just going to have to accept that there are going to be periods of data that you're just unable to analyze. There's no magic wand to suddenly clean this data up. Unfortunately, as much as we would like there to be one, it doesn't exist at the moment.
Okay, well, thank you all. I know we're almost a half an hour over. I just wanted to share with you all the BioPAC, the brand new BioPAC website. If you haven't been to our website in the last few days, please visit. We launched a new design and we're very happy with it. If you want to reach out to your local representative, you can just scroll down on any page of the website and click contact. I'm in California, so I have Amy. If you fill out this form, it will go directly to Amy and she can, or your representative, and they can reach back out to you quickly. I think I showed you already the QR code for the research ring specifically. So go ahead and scan that QR code if you want to immediately get a demo or talk to a rep about that. And then I want to share with you that we have live and on-demand webinars almost every month of the year, not during the holidays, and sometimes we skip a month in the summer, but we have over 100 webinars on the BioPAC website. And the next two are planned. The first one in November will be integrate another new product, actually, a whole head FNIRS with EEG product, and now we're adding VR as well. So we'll talk a lot about that on November 2nd, and then November 29th, we're going to talk more about how to use the research ring in different remote settings. This is me watching my kids' football game. I also took it to a cross-country meet, and we got some interesting data from both of those settings. So I just will show you while I have it up here. Let me go see if I can find this on my screen. Here we go, back to the webinars page. You can just access our resources, you can access our support team, and you can access over 100 webinars. That's where you can log in, watch webinars on demand, but then also see what new webinars we have cooking. Okay, well, thank you all so very much. This was a lot of information and a lot of activity from our attendees, and I can't see the questions anymore because I had to shrink that screen. But any questions that I did not ask all the questions because some of them have more involved answers. So we will send those questions to our speakers. They will get answers back to us, and we'll send them out along with the slides. We'll send the Q&A document out as well. Okay, so thank you again. I just want to say our webinar was recorded. We'll send a link to the recording, the documents I just mentioned. When you close the webinar window, please complete our survey. We'd love to hear back from you about how this webinar went for you. Please do visit biopack.com for additional resources and references, including screencasts on specific features and analysis tools. We'll be loading up more information about the ring. We have a webpage on that, but we'll have some specs and all that as well. There's application notes and, of course, information about upcoming webinars. We will be at Neuroscience next month, so join us. Come by and see the ring and the new Metal App system. We'll be there. Fraser will be there, and we'd love to see you if you attend Neuroscience. Speakers, anything else before we conclude?
No, other than thank you for hanging in there for an hour and a half if you're still there.
Yeah, thanks, folks. It's been fun. Thanks.
Okay, well, that is a wrap. Thank you all again. Have a great rest of your day. This concludes today's webinar. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.